What is up, guys? Noli here, bringing you a short video concerning the laning phase. This is going to fall in the Road to Ranked series, of course, Silver League, but this was a ranked game, but it doesn't progress beyond the laning phase, and I'm hoping that as an ADC I can sort of teach you what's going on within this laning phase and how it goes particularly well, what I'm thinking, and the actions of both me and the support tank. So we're going to focus primarily upon the support tank and myself. I may swap across to see what goes on elsewhere, but as I say, on the whole, me and the support tank. So, looking at the start, I have discussed the start quite a few times as far as what you do in each and every position. But once the game hits minus 10 seconds, so you've been in the actual game for 10 seconds, it's actually following me around, all the buffs will come up. For the blue team side, which is the one I'm on, playing the god Ah-Muzen-Cab, the god of bees, you're going to want to take the blue buff in the current meta. Just straight up, sit there, take your own blue buff and head into lane. It's going to give you a slight lane push advantage when it comes to the actual laning phase. The other team is going to be doing the mid camps. However, this team does it slightly strangely. Jeb, in fact, starts the blue buff on his own, while Anher and Zhongqi do the mid camp, so it means they do a slower mid camp and they also do a slower blue buff, but they do not get outpushed of lane. The support tank takes quite a large amount of damage for it, but even so, it's probably not a bad decision overall. Seeing that, the support tank enters with about 3/4 health, but the ADC, the Apollo, is on full health. I am, however, Muzen. I do have regeneration capabilities with my hives. So if I place a hive, I get higher movement speed, higher attack speed, and a bit of HP 5. You can see those +4s coming up above my name. However, the hives can be destroyed very easily simply by using a basic attack on them, which is sort of the job of the support tank. It's a split job. The range carry can do a slightly better job of it because he can do it over range. You'll see what I'm doing here is actually sort of put my body in the way of it to deter him from shooting at it. And then we have a very small little skirmish between the two of us. My creeps sort of push him down more than he pushes me, but overall it's a pretty fair fight. Now, Jeb here is looking to ward and possibly get the drop on us. Or possibly even rotate into mid early. There is 3 options, but while we have the poke afforded by Sun Wukong, if you remember from last video how powerful he is, we're really able to hurt the ADC more and make it a pretty bad decision for Jeb to leave. However, Jeb is able to use his Shield of Stone to cover him from any extra damage, but he's already fallen below half, while I am at about just over 2/3. At this point I hit level 3, which allows me to use my honey. Muzen's honey is one of the best lane clearing abilities in the game. As long as there is a hive within a certain radius, the honey will spread bees across the populace of the enemy creeps and the enemy gods. This is going to do some serious damage because it reapplies every few seconds. I don't know whether it's every second actually. They stand within the honey. I'm able to use the honey again to poke alongside Swarm, just to keep that Apollo from wanting to do anything. During this time, the 2 support tanks are going to be rotating to mid to contest the mid camps. I did slightly mistime that, but as you can see, this mid camp is still up, and so the support tanks are going to hang around and fight for it. During this time, it is literally a poke off. Muzen's clear is higher, and I'm going to be able to force creep waves into Apollo's tower without him being able to do very much about it. Because of that, Jeb is going to be forced to try to get back into lane sooner, and that's part of the reason why Apollo has a hard time. Jeb, instead of responding to his teammates' evident lack of clear compared to mine, decides just to fight over the mid caps. Instead, he ends up dying to our Sun Wukong. I'm able to clear this lane reasonably quickly, but as you can see, Apollo is slightly ahead of me on experience, so he does hit level 5 before I do. If I'd landed the Swarm here, this could have been the end for Apollo, but instead, I'm just sort of left low on mana and pushed back myself. So, what are we looking at now? We're looking at a Wukong with a kill. This is a very powerful Wukong that can roam. He's backed once so far, but with that, I believe he's picked up... Oh no, he's just picked up level 2 boots. If I were him, I would have picked up a level 2 Hand of the God and a level 2 Hand Eye of Providence, I should say. That's going to give you a little more vision for lane control, and creep clear, again, for lane dominance. Now, they do force us back here, and Sun Wukong has a real issue trying to get into the tower to defend it. But basically, Jeb isn't supporting Apollo as he should be. He should be taking creep hits, occasionally dropping out a shield if he needs it in front of the creeps. And that's going to allow for Apollo to actually push more successfully as I return to lane on Muzen here. I completely misplaced my honey, so it doesn't spread exactly how I wanted it to, but that's not the end of the world as I finish Death's Toll and ooh, this is actually quite an important part of the game. Death's Toll and Heartseeker. You'll notice here Odin makes a slight mistake. I quite probably could have killed the Apollo. Instead, I end up... wow, that honey looked hilarious. I end up losing my Stinger, which is my ultimate, which I get back in about 20 seconds, I believe, if I land it and pick it up. Otherwise, it's a 90-second cooldown. And Apollo gets away. Instead, we take the Jeb kill. Is it worth it? No, absolutely not. Jeb is only level 5 at this point. I believe he might have been level 4 during the fight. Apollo was level 7, and Jeb was already at 0-1, so he's not going to be worth the same. We're easily able to take this blue buff, and had we known Apollo was going to come and consider contesting it, we probably could have ended his life as well. So if we look at the opposing builds, we've got Apollo with the Death's Toll, which is absolutely fantastic. It is a starter item and always worth picking up, but he started with it. Then he went into boots. Now this isn't necessarily a bad idea, in fact it's a more noob-friendly idea. It's going to make his life a lot easier early on, but the risk I take is by picking up level 2 Heartseeker, I can basically get it earlier than the opposing ADC, and in doing so I can start building stacks earlier and my own damage much faster. What I do here, noticing that Wukong is sort of half-heartedly fighting the Jeb, I just come across, try and poke the Jeb out of the fight. But I am doing a reasonable amount of damage to him, and I do force out the Cataclysm ultimate. At this point it doesn't really do much damage, instead it is just a reasonable stun. But again, we're able to force Jeb out, and I believe back into an uncomfortable position where he does die from. So back onto the builds. The Heartseeker is a stacking item. For every stack you're going to get some physical power. And if your opponent isn't building it, or if they're building it slower, you're just straight up going to do more damage with your basics, which is what you are as a ranged carry. Jeb doesn't actually make any stupid decision and does end up walking back into lane at this point. Death's Toll I always like to pick up afterwards because it is just the sort of sustain for mana and health that you need. I have considered in the past picking up Death's Toll and level 1 Heartseeker, but that's going to leave you with no money for any potions or possible actives, which is not something that I appreciate. So what we've been doing, as you saw, I stole a blue buff before, and we have been monopolizing the blue buffs. This is going to increase our clear potential even further, and as Jeb is out of mana, we do make a slight mess here. My Hive either comes out and gets destroyed immediately or doesn't come out. Then I completely miss Stinger, trying to turn and drag it into the Apollo as he uses the moves, which is a dash away. Really makes it quite hard to land, and I do miss it and have a 90-second cooldown now. But again, I can outclear Apollo. What can he do? He does land so beautiful on me, which does a reasonable amount of damage. But in this sort of situation, where he isn't clearing the back range creeps, and they are the creeps that are going to do the damage, the rangers, he's putting himself in a really difficult position, pushing himself underneath his own tower, and of course losing gold because of it. I am about 450 gold ahead of him right now, so that is the differential we're looking at. The same level though, so that shows how my push has been losing him a lot of gold. Now, here Tyr should have done something, but I am 3 levels above him, and he's the same level as Wukong, so what could he have done? In his eyes, that is anyway. I do believe him challenging us there would have been a much better decision, because with all the crowd control Tyr owns, he probably could have stolen that blue back off us, won the mini fight, and then possibly turned it into a kill or two. So that is always the way you should be as a high CC jungler in that sort of positional advantage. Again, Wukong's just trying to poke with 72 transformations, as you saw in my most recent support tank video. But to be honest, Jeb takes a lot of damage from my basics and indeed Swarm, so we are able to keep him down relatively well. Right now I'm the 2nd highest level on our team, and my farm is the 3rd highest along, which is quite good. It's mainly due to Muzen's high clear and last hitting potential, but also the fact that Wukong's been out of lane a lot has been helping me out a lot. While it may be lowering his farm, it's increasing my farm, which is just more important all around. As Jeb falls, I believe, again to a fight with Wukong and Odin. Odin is doing a fantastic job. You guys know what I think of the jungle Odin if you remember. I released 2 videos on it. The first one was my main tutorial video, and the second one was a Road to Ranked for this season. Road to Ranked episode 1.
Fly, friends!
I do miss Swarm again here. I could have really pressured him had I landed it, but I'm not under a lot of pressure to do so myself. Based on this positioning and the fact that we know Geb is only just respawning, the blue buff is very much on the cards. I'm going to use my Swarm, my Hive, and my Honey to take that with the utmost speed, and then the Hog will finally finish it off. Apollo is out of position, but to be honest, they could totally turn this fight around on us if played properly. Noticing the difference, I'm 5 levels above Jeb, so any sort of poke I can get on him will really hurt him. He wastes his rollout, and I do land the Stinger for the instant kill. Muzen has a fantastic fight in lane. There are very few gods that can fight as well as him, assuming you can land your Stinger. The interesting thing though is Anher. Anher is good against Muzen because Muzen's Stinger hurts a lot. It's a high base damage ability, and it's just a high damage ability all around. And assuming you land it frequently, you can pick it up again to have a very short cooldown. So, in a sense, it's just a very high damage ability that is just a regular ability. It's like he doesn't have an ultimate, assuming you can land it frequently. However, Anher, he also has a flat damage ultimate, and it's nowhere near as good. I actually tricked Geb here into using rollout on me, landing a Stinger on him immediately, catching my Stinger again. But can I land the last hit? Not quite. It runs out of range as Jeb jumps away. At this point, I realise that the tier is coming in. However, I want to bait Jeb in again. I know all it'll take is another basic. I dodge the Fearless with relative ease here, and I land the Stinger. Like, completely juked out there. They did not see that one coming. That was a max range Stinger land. Surrender vote has started. 10 minutes in. We are 6-0 up. I decided to back, obviously not knowing the surrender vote is out. And that is how you win a lane in under 10 minutes. You demoralize the support tank, you force the rotations out, and during that, you push the enemy player back into tower. Another possible strategy is actually allowing the creeps to fight each other and just last hitting them. And if you can keep the enemy range carry away from the creeps, they're going to be losing out on both money and experience. That is an extremely effective strategy. But I choose the push strategy on Muzen because it is what he does best, as Poseidon finishes off another kill. 2-0-1 is the final score in 11 minutes. Not a sort of wreck. You know, the enemy team wasn't all over the place. But honestly, if we take a look at the levels and farm, you'll understand why the surrender vote went out so early, even only 4,000 gold behind. So we've got Poseidon, Muzen and Odin, all with 2-0-1 or 2. High gold farm, high level farm compared to the enemy team. I am 2 levels above my opposition, who of course is Apollo. Sun Wukong is 1 level above Jeb. Odin is 3 levels above Tyr. Ra is 1 level behind for mana. And Poseidon is 3 levels above Zhonghui. This Poseidon was very good, by the way. I've seen him in a couple of games, and he's a very proficient Poseidon. So looking where the gold differentials are, I should say, we've got about an 800 gold differential between me and Apollo. And then the Wukong and Jeb one is about, what, 900? That is huge. Well played by Wukong again. Seeing how Wukong's rotations and sheer lane damage allows him to farm higher than most support tanks. Poseidon and Zhonghui were leagues apart, 1,100 gold. Other than that, the difference is relatively small, with Ra keeping up quite well with the mana. Oh, Tyr and Odin as well, that's 1,170. That is a big gap. So, well played to my team on the whole. This was the 3rd win in my win streak right now. I am still going, thankfully. To be honest, road to gold this season I should say, is going extremely successfully. Having a look at the GP5, I was 2nd highest on the team. The GP5 is never that high this early on unless the enemy team is being absolutely slaughtered, because clear potential isn't that high and you don't see things like towers, gold furies or fire giants going down. Looking at the player damage, I did top the team. In fact, I topped the game for player damage. If the ADC is playing well and poking a lot, he probably should around about the 10-minute mark. Damage taken is second lowest on the team, which is not bad, means I've been dodging reasonably well. And my creep damage was, I believe, actually the highest. So, sorry, what am I saying? It was the highest. Yeah, I was very confused. The Odin one looked larger. Yeah, isn't a fantastic creep clear, simple as that. Damage mitigated, you're not going to see much on that front. And then structure damage, just because I did some, it shows that I was poking slightly harder and pushing slightly harder than any other god in the game. So that is how you hold and indeed win a lane. Muzen's a very good example of a lane god. He's extremely powerful in lane with that high push. Apollo, interestingly, is more about his ability to rotate. So it was a reasonably favourable matchup for me against him. But that is the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed Road to Ranked. I believe this is episode 4 for the Silver season. Thanks a lot for watching. See you all in the next one.